So now I'd like to introduce the folks who are bringing our briefing this morning. They're the Office of Emergency Management within the San Antonio City structure. So James Mendoza, and James and I have been working together for a good almost 7 years,
Yeah.
and Ashley Carter as well. So they are like the point people. And they're doing this morning exactly what they do when emergencies happen. They're contacting people and reaching out and connecting them and saying it's time. And now they're going to tell us what happens when that emergency comes to town. So I hand it over to you, Ashley and James. Thank you for being with us this morning and taking the time.
Thank you, Reverend. I appreciate the time and the opportunity to talk to you all. I think I've done this before. And so quick plug, if you all ever need us to come back and talk to you, if there was an actual event going on and you wanted to be briefed midway or during the emergency, we'd be more than happy to do that. I think when Reverend Helpke became an official city employee, you see on her email address, it says sanantonio.gov. I was very proud of that decision to bring her on as a city employee. And I know she's doing really good work. So I appreciate that. Ashley, you want to say good morning before I get started?
Of course. Good morning, everybody. Again, Ashley Carter with the Office of Emergency Management. Excited to be on here. I've worked alongside the Office of Emergency Management, James and Reverend Helmke, for the last 5 years that I've been here. I've only been here 5 years, but it's been great to see the work that we can all do together. And this mimics, again, as Reverend Helmke said, a lot of the work that we do with our regional wide partners all the way up to the federal level. We have a monthly call with them where we do the same thing. We talk about what's going on. We talk about any incidents that might have happened or exercises. So it's great to see this happening in other spheres, that you're meeting each other now instead of when the event happens or when you realize you don't know who's in the room. So this is really wonderful. Thank you for having us.
So we talk about that as practice, right? We
Right.
keep meeting, we keep talking, we keep practicing, working, exercising, so that when the moment comes, we know what to do, right? Yeah. So
That's right. Yeah, and if you can see my background, the background on my Zoom here is the city's Emergency Operations Center. And again, you're more than welcome to set something up, come down to the EOC. It's a command center. It's pretty impressive. We've been in there for a couple of years, so we don't see how cool it really is every day. But when we get new people in, such as yourselves, to walk through, we get a little bit more excited about it. So open invitation to come on down and have some coffee with us, and we'll brief you even more detailed on what it is that we're doing. So again, thank you. Our mission with the city of San Antonio is to plan, train, and exercise for all disaster situations and emergencies. The last mission on that is to respond. And so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about our mission, a couple of current events that we've got going on, some hazards that you need to understand living in San Antonio, and some things that you need to sort of worry about and plan for, and then how you play a role in disasters and what we're doing during that process. So first of all, San Antonio is a very, very safe place to live. It's a great community, great environment. However, just like all large cities, we do have hazards that we have to worry about. And so right now, it is raining, and we are very, very happy that it is raining. But when we get too much rain, that water's got to go somewhere. And when that happens, we tend to flood often. So stay off the roads, turn around, don't drown. If you're ever getting any water in your home, or if there's debris in the right of way, do call someone for help. If it's an emergency, call 911. If you want to report something that's a non-emergency, please call 311. Our team will get into action, go check the place out, find out what's happening, and then begin the recovery process. Other hazards, so that's more of a natural hazard. As you know, the National Weather Service has issued a sort of warning for the entire country, but Texas pays close attention to hurricane activity. because of our location, and because we play a key role in bringing in evacuees who have to leave that danger area into safety. So you've probably heard that they've called for a very active hurricane season, and that sort of brings up our spider senses a little bit. And so Ashley and I and the rest of the team, the fire department, the police department, and city leadership are all ready to respond to these hurricanes. Now, we're not going to get. Let me back up. We usually don't get, and we've never gotten an actual hurricane coming up through San Antonio. However, we will get a tropical storm as that hurricane weakens. And when that tropical storm parks over the city, we will get flooding 100%. It'll dump a bunch of rain and we will flood. We will also be flooded with helping other Texans who are getting out of that area. So it's a two-prong approach. We'll be dealing with the weather and keeping the community safe and sending resources out to help you, but we'll also be opening shelters for all of the first responders that come down from the state of Texas to assist and respond, and evacuees. Sometimes those evacuees will stay for a day, go down to the Riverwalk, spend some money, and then go back home if their homes haven't been destroyed. Sometimes they'll be here for longer than a few days. And if you remember, during Hurricane Katrina back in 2007, we sheltered almost 50,000 evacuees from all over the Gulf states. And we don't have an exact figure, but what I've read is almost half of those folks remained in San Antonio and the surrounding areas. And so now we have some great citizens and residents that have stayed here because their homes were destroyed and they couldn't go back. So we are planning that active hurricane season right now. Other hazards that you need to know about that aren't natural are man-made hazards. So hazardous material spills, residential and building fires. Definitely you need to call 911 when those things happen. And I think what's on a lot of people's mind is the active threat or active shooter situation. Real quickly, I'll tell you that we don't respond to those active shooter situations. We have the best police department in the world who will be able to respond, take the shooter out, make sure that everybody's safe. So I'm not, unfortunately, I can't prevent those things from happening. But what we can do is make that response a little bit more smoother for the family and for the community. So we will open a reunification and resource center for families who are affected by that. And this is where I think your group and a lot of other volunteers and community resources will come in. We will depend on you all to help staff those resource centers, to bring resources in, and particularly the faith-based community plays a big role in recovery in terms of mental health and providing faith-based relief to victims of those types of disasters. So just keep that in the back of your mind that and I'll make a bold statement for you all, but that I've said in the past. Ashley and I and Chief Lodge and Chief Norris, we don't have anything. All right, we don't have an army of people. We don't have a warehouse full of stuff. We don't have a ton of resources, but what we have is influence, and what we have is that planning and preparedness mindset for the entire city of San Antonio. So without you, we are nothing. Without the community, without volunteer resources, we cannot proceed. We cannot respond to these large-scale disasters without your help. And I could spend 30 minutes going down the list of community resources that we depend on a daily basis to respond to small disruptions in the community, power outages, small-scale floods, small-scale tornadoes, to large-scale disasters like a citywide flood or wildfire. We will 100% continue to depend on people like you and organizations like the ones that you represent. So I thank you and I challenge you to continue to be ready to help us to respond to these situations. So that is how you play a role in disasters. We will formalize an activation of the emergency through the Emergency Operations Center. The mayor, the city manager, the fire chief, the police chief, they'll all get together with our elected officials and decide whether or not we need to activate this facility that I hope you all will visit someday. Once we do that, we'll be reaching out. And Reverend Helmke, whether you knew this or not, you're our point of contact. We have points of contact throughout the entire city, and we will bug you. We will bug you day and night at any hour if we need something from you. And I know Reverend Helmke will be responsive. She always has been in the past, and she always will be. We'll call her. We'll activate this sort of informal group, and if we have to brief you up during the emergency, I volunteer to do that for you. We do that for the superintendents of the school districts. We do that for our community-wide partners, and I will 100% take as much time as I need to make sure that this group is up to speed and you have all the information that everyone else has. That's how important you are. We will take the time to make sure that you are up to speed on all current events. And if I'm not going to do it, Ashley's going to do it. And if we can't do it, I promise you, Chief Lodge or Deputy Fire Chief Norris will also brief you up on that. That is how effective we are as a community. I'm going to turn this over to Ashley because there's a lot of opportunities for you all to be involved. We're doing public outreach. We're doing education. We're telling people to get ready for disasters. We're bringing them into exercises. So if residents want to participate or play war game with us, those opportunities are open. But I think what Ashley is doing for us is extremely unique for the city of San Antonio, and we're getting a lot of state and national recognition and attention because of what we're doing. So Ashley, if you can take a minute or two to tell them what you're doing and how they can play a role.
Of
Thanks,
course.
James.
So for the past 2 years, I moved into a role that I'm an emergency planner for people with disabilities and other access and functional needs. So that means any of our plans that we're doing, our processes, it needs to have that accessibility mindset and that inclusionary mindset. All the way from how do you communicate during a disaster or during normal preparedness time, all the way to what are our processes for evacuation, for sheltering? Are we ensuring that everything that we have has an alternate means of it happening, that we have the equipment to assist people and provide them continuity of care, and to ensure that people feel safe and ready to evacuate, no matter if they have a disability, don't have a disability, just have an access need such as transportation or language or any other need that we might be able to address. A big part of this has been we're currently going through all of our plans and making sure that that language is in there. So like we're putting our money where our mouth is. It's one thing to say that we need people to do that, but we're doing it first. We're having all of our plans match the national best standards. We have a national subject matter expert on board with us for the last 2 years, ensuring that we're getting there and doing those processes. But once we get through our plans and even during it, we're also calling on you, our partners, to start thinking about like what are steps that you can take no matter where you are to start having that inclusion and disability mindset, that access and functional need mindset to ensure that you're serving your community the best that you can. And if that's something where you're like, I don't even really know what that means, I kind of know what ADA is, we can talk to you. We have our own disability access office who loves and wants to go into the community to educate and then provide you those resources or those steps that you can take based on where you are in your organization or even where you are, whether it's a small organization or large. There's things that you can do to make steps towards that so we're better serving our community together. And part of that is, James mentioned, we're doing some preparedness. So prior to this role, I was in public engagement for 3 years. We now have a new public engagement officer, Janelle Garcia. You might hear from her. You will hear from her as she continues to grow into her role. She's been here about 6 months. But one of our biggest things. As James mentioned, response, we have a role in that. It's usually much bigger in that recovery, mitigation, and then of course preparedness, because we're only as helpful to our community as they are prepared and ready to move forward themselves. Do they have a plan? Do they know about the hazards in our area? Are they a little bit more knowledgeable so that when it happens, they can stay resilient until help arrives, until those responders, fire and police come? So a big one right now that we're pushing is heat. The Beat the Heat campaign is not like this weekend, but most of the summer and last week it's hot. And it's one thing for us to joke and we say, oh, it's always hot. We're in San Antonio. It is always been hot, but it's getting hotter. We're having more sustained days over 100 degrees with a heat index upwards in the 110s. That's where the danger comes, is that we can push it through. We're San Antonians, but what are people doing if they don't have AC, if they don't have properly insulated homes, if they're unsheltered homeless individuals, or they don't have a home? What are we doing and how are we helping them? So one of the ways that we know how to do it is sending out a Beat the Heat guide that has like tips on what you can do to beat the heat personally. What does heat stroke look like? Helping self-identify some of those symptoms. What can you do for your home? And then what can you do for your family and your community? We have that as a paper guide, a digital guide. We have it in Spanish. We also have it in American Sign Language with a English voiceover and plain language closed captions. So we're expanding that accessibility mindset and ensuring that whether you're a digital age person, whether you enjoy more of that, like, paper, or you need it another way, that we're going to meet that need where you are and ensure that you can get that information right now. We have a similar campaign for flood as well as for winter, and then an all hazards campaign, which is that means that applies to anything that you're doing. Preparedness can be the same no matter what the hazard is. There's just little things to tweak depending on what that is. But we have it and would love to share with this group and love for you to send it out forward. Because again, as James said, we can only share to so many people. We only can do so much. We're a team of usually about 5, where we can really get those guides out. So we rely on you, our partners, to not just get guides out, but get information and have those conversations now and not later with your constituents or your organizations, whoever you serve. So that way you can be prepared before the disaster.